Now, this does not mean that we have to cower in the corner, or, as you maybe have heard some folks say, hand over the keys to our brand. It's their brand, it's not ours. In our view, it's our brand. Because never before have we had technology available to us to connect individually with people, to be able to collect and mine information about them and their behavior, and to be able to tailor our offerings accordingly. So with that in mind, you have to think about, how do you bring people into your brand? How do you get them to share in that story? How do you get them to pass that along? And in this sea change, we think in ecosystems. A set of carefully constructed pathways that people, number one, choose to engage with, and number two, that allows them to find meaning on their own terms. With that in mind, I'd like to turn it over and bring it to life with Prilosec OTC. So Karen's going to tell the story of an unlikely brand in a highly competitive category, making unconventional choices to achieve that same goal that I referenced earlier, that goal of creating a commitment that could withstand the test of time, competition, and price pressures. You're up.
Thanks. So how many of you ever get heartburn? You don't have to raise your hand if you don't want. Some people don't enjoy. Thank you. Thank you for raising your hand. Thank you. Do you love looking for your heartburn medicine? You just love it, right? It's your passion. You can't wait to go to the store and look for it. And I'm fortunate, even pregnant, I don't get heartburn. I never have. It's a little unfortunate because I'm so connected to this category, and I can truly empathize after talking to so many people what heartburn does to their lives. It's debilitating. So what I'm going to talk about is something that nobody would say they aspire to really, dig into as a consumer, as an individual person, say, heartburn defines me. But we're going to talk a little bit about Prilosec OTC and then how we have started making a change a little bit. We're starting this path to try to really resonate with the person. So I'll take it back a few years. Back Prilosec OTC, when we came over the counter, it was one of the biggest brand launches in history. We, in the OTC medicine category, was actually accolades one of the best, so we feel great about it. So we launched in 2003, built a significant business, and a lot from people coming from the prescription side. So for about 5 years, we didn't have any direct OTC competition in the subcategory in which we compete. So we were trading some people up from some of the different classes of medicine. We were pulling a lot of people over the counter from prescription, but we didn't have any direct competition. Life is great. I got to experience that for a few months on the brand before they brought me in. When they brought me in, before we actually had quite a rude awakening. It was expected, but a private label launched in March of 2008, so 2 years ago, and immediately took a decent share of our business. So you can see here, right when the Green Line private label launched, and you see that's exactly when our trend started declining. This was expected. However, it doesn't feel good, especially when you've been on such a good ride for a few years. And so the bad news doesn't stop there. We also knew within a year and a half there'd be another competitor. And this one isn't quite as rational of a decision. This is from a very formidable competitor, Novartis. They launched Prevacid 24-hour back in November. And we knew they were going to come guns blazing, budgets in hand, trying to steal share in this very competitive category. So we knew this was going to happen. No way to avoid it. You're going to have direct branded competition. And we had done a great job over time of training consumers about what we do. But the reality is, the barrier to entry in OTC heartburn medicines, or any medicine, and many other categories, is that you have to work. And that's what we've been talking about, and consumers know Prilosec OTC works. It's not the question. People get it, and you have to work, and we have to tell them it works. But at the end of the day, this is where people were. They were either disconnected or rationally connected. They say, I know Prilosec OTC works, that's great. But then, just like the bank, they were rationally satisfied. They're just as open to leaving your business, your brand, if they're rationally satisfied as if they were dissatisfied. We had great loyalty. People loved us. They kept using us. Even the people who today are on our brand, they still use Prilosec. They're still very committed. However, we were still rationally connected. And that's a lot of times where medicines plays, in the rational connection. So we did a little research, and we came to this insight, which some of us knew, but you know how you have the aha moments? So I know Prilosec stops my heartburn because I've tried it and it works. Barrier to entry, got to have it happen. But I don't think about it beyond that. And it doesn't mean anything to me in terms of who I am. Like, it's you know, relatively low involvement. It has to work. And then it doesn't mean anything to me. And, you know, that was, pun intended, a tough pill to swallow, because this is the business that we live, die, breathe, and want to help people with. So we said, okay, what do we do here? Now, I'll be honest. No offense here, but as we talked, as I mentioned at the beginning, it's a little more engaging for a Nike or an Apple. People aspire to be athletes or runners. People aspire to listen to their music or video or get cool gadgets. So when you think about roles in people's lives, they still have a challenge, but it's a little easier than a heartburn medicine when you think about it. So after listening to all these consumers and the truths that they're telling us about where heartburn fits into their lives, we had to take a step back and say, okay, seriously, what business are we in? Are we really just, you know, selling drugs? Are we really just selling heartburn remedies? And of course, you'll find us in that aisle at the grocery store, at the drugstore. That's not a question. We're still doing that. But really, that's not enough. We had to change our thinking about what business we're really in. And so we decided we had to kind of take a deeper thought. So we talked to a lot of consumers. And the interesting thing is when you talk to them and you say, how does heartburn play into your life? What does it keep you from doing? You listen to these consumers talk to each other. It's so fascinating. I've always been really fascinated with our consumers. And they talk and they say, yeah, so heartburn, it does this, whatever, but here's what I love to do. And then you see them sitting around a table or at we go to people's homes and they're talking to their friends and they say, here's what really interests me. And they start talking about their passions, and all of a sudden that's where they drive connections, despite the fact they all have heartburn. That really all of a sudden kind of becomes less important in the conversation. They drive the connections through their passions, and that's what they want to talk about. Doesn't sound like rocket science, of course, but we still have to figure out how we define our business. And what we decided is it's not just about selling heartburn medicine. It's really about helping people pursue their life's passions without apology, without heartburn. I said, okay, that could, and that's where our purpose was born. So we've got a new charge, and this is not just something that we charge in how we think about talking with or engaging with consumers. It's how we operate as a business right now. Inside P&G, the Prilosec OTC group, this is our mantra, this is our charge, is helping people live life unapologetically pursuing their passions without heartburn.